I find it interesting, Ziza, because my own life is being my owner. It's always life, right? It's the owner who amansa, right? Life itself makes the movement to tame us. When you realize that suffering is providence, too much, too much. When you start to live the dynamics of time, you who are watching us are listening to this conversation. I hope you are including yourself, because all this speaks of your life as well. When we live the dynamics of time, when we understand the time we have, we naturally get more docilely. I think it has an acceptance movement in the soul when maturity is coming, which is not an acceptance that is subjection to the things I cannot change, but it is an acceptance. It is as if I made peace with my circumstances. I am allied with my circumstance in some way I accept. And I understand that in acceptance is a subjection to what is divine, sacred, larger, only in my life. That it helps me so much because many people, for example, ask me how I can do so many things at the same time. I always think, I don't fight with them all. You don't stay. Yeah. I think there's a thing to be pacified over time. And we no longer have expectations that provoke us discussion with the things of life, people, circumstances, with reality, with me, with my body, with my biotype. I think time will teach me how to live a real, concrete, integrative peace. And is the door of my real happiness. Is where I'm in peace. That story of Martin's phrase, right, Valverde? Rico is the one who needs very little to be happy, because he is an integrated person. Rich in meaning, right? It's something that then you understand the poor spirit of the saints. Then you understand the vote of poverty, so you understand a Saint Francis, a Santa Clara, the saints we admire. How did the person live this? But I think which was a process of maturation of the soul and needed pruning. Imagine Francisco to be the leader of so many. He was the son of thunder as well, a Teresa d'Avila, a strong woman. How beautiful Francis understood poverty, with a lightness that is not common for us to find. I have already lived the vote of poverty and already lived with people who had vote of poverty and who were extremely bitter, heavy, and not poor. No, precisely. Because there is nothing in your name. Poverty is a relationship. There is no bank account, but it has a bitterness in the soul that impoverishes it in the worst way. Material poverty is just a consequence, right? Because if I live material poverty, I have to naturally seek the richness of the spirit, which is the richness of coexistence, to become a light and pleasant person. That is the meaning, right? You don't have much materially, but you have a set of inner spiritual wealth that supplies all this, even making you very dear to those who he has different opportunities from ours. I remember how many times I found people who were not rich and who lived better than rich people. Size joint of opportunities because they were light, they were pleasant, and everyone wanted to have around. There's no money, but she's so nice. Let's take her with us. We pay her. How many times in my life have I seen this? Because of an inner lightness, with no grudge with poverty, that person seemed to be very rich. Yes, it was much richer than that person. And it's really rich. Such a person. It doesn't look like, right? And yes. 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 It's that feeling of having everything it has. What is itself? All the time. Oh, I want to be so. God help me. So it is. God help me. Just ask. Keep asking him to be guardian, and we be aware of what he keeps. Because when I am aware of what God is keeping, I turn his partner in this guard. I like that very much expression you use. I think it's from Santa Teresa to download the castle door. And raise the castle door. This is being guardian of yourself. It is that you have the exact perception of what needs to be continued, what needs to be opened, but what needs to be finished and closed too. Closed, protected, expected, silenced. We are entitled, right? Because sometimes we are educated in the church that the Christian has to say yes and amen for everything. The Christian really strong. He says, no. You remember that at the height of my suffering, this crisis I have faced, you called me offering help, and I honestly said, Isa, I'm at a time that I'm still with the door raised. I'm not yet to visit yet. That is good. It is good for you to be aware of what you are capable. And you don't violate yourself. And not to be forced to say yes. Be free to say no, right? Saying no doesn't mean I don't love it. Precisely. Have this free and beloved spirit. Lick the wounds, right? I think cute. I have my children there and I see how they lick to heal. It is a process of care with each other. And the licking metaphor of the wounds, it is very suggestive. Because it is like I was removing the entire infectious process. Giving time, careful, purging. Literally purging what is excessive in me. What is inflammating me. What is thundering inside me. And that so many times makes me an unbearable person to others. Because one of the concerns I have to live with great responsibility, my conversion, is that I do not want to be unbearable to others. I find it so bad when I come across an unbearable person, a difficult person, that the first thing that occurs to me is, guys, I don't want to be so. It's a good start. It's already a good start, isn't it? It's a good start. We, on the trip, we came talking, right? Sometimes of people who make a mistake. So much that they expose themselves. The way they expose themselves. It is a sign for us. I don't want to be so too. I want to have the equilibrium point. I want to know how far it's fair to get. How did it go? And it's listening, right? Listening boldly. These days I was with Augustine there in Curitiba, and he said, listen to his heart with courage. He is wise, but you need to hear. You need to hear. With courage and commitment to yourself. Because in this commitment is fertile land for a commitment to true God. Right? And I think we only take care of if we hear ourselves. That's right. You have to hear yourself. Father Fabio, why did Moses do so much obeying God and did not receive the promised land? Was it lack of God's mercy? No, because perhaps it is the destiny of every prophet to die without seeing the consequence of the mission. We will not always see what we planted. We do not always have the opportunity. Sometimes God gives us a teaspoon, as is said there in Minas. We see one or another result of what it does. And it's beautiful. We feel even motivated. But in the context of the great prophets, they saw almost nothing. Moses received that mission of freeing the people from Egypt, and he went through the whole process of making the people stay in hope. But did not get there. The people arrived, but not Moses. With that, God shows us a lot of interesting things. Because in fact, the role of the prophet is to keep the flame of hope. Guys, it's very interesting when you realize that the person loses hope. It is very interesting to see the disastrous consequences that the lack of hope has in the person's life. There, in the context of Moses, he needs to make the people walk. They need to make the people arrive. And it's your testimony. It is he being ahead all the time. And every time of that process of passage, He needed to be to the people that the people needed them to be. He played the role of being this presence that did not let hope die. Today I keep seeing, after millions and millions of years when we are living this same crossing. Because the promised land is a very beautiful metaphor of everything we expect in life. For the people of Israel, this promised land was a geographical location, because they had no place. A people who have no place is a people who have no identity. It is as if the enemy, someone came, took to his city and it ceased to be his own. You were expelled from your home, expelled from your land and taken to be slave elsewhere in another city. This is precisely what happened to the people. The people needed the earth. The earth would give the identity to these people. Okay, it's a geography. It's a place to come. But the interesting thing is to think that the promised land unfolds, and then it is no longer just a geographical location. Let's say I'm in the process of Essishes, crossings. To get Fabio, I can run the risk of dying without being. So Moses did not step to the promised land, but you can be sure that in the dream and hope, Moses was the first to step on that land. This is the beautiful. You don't need materiality. You don't need the floor. Moses already knew the promised land. And that is why he put himself on his way, but died before seeing the place. But he had seen so much in his dreams, in his hopes, that stepping in place was no longer so necessary. Because in fact, God's process in us is not even so much to come, but it is how we arrive. It's the same when we'll see a movie, a romance. Everyone, you know how it ends, isn't it? The good guy will always stay with the girl and ends like that. Beautiful. Everyone crying at the end. Because the important thing is not what happens. It is as it happens. The most important thing is not to arrive, but it is how I arrive. And more I discover that sometimes I think I have the illusion that the most beautiful is to get where I am traveling. But if I suddenly start opening my eyes, I will realize that the trip is so charming, or sometimes even more charming than coming. If I had a way to arrive without having to go, when I'm too tired and I have to travel, I often say, oh my God, if I had a way to arrive without me having to go. But often having to go is better than coming. And in the promise of the promised land, the beautiful of everything is not to reach the promised land, but it is what God is doing within our heart as we dream with the promised land. The desires survive the absence, because when you have what you wanted, you am, isn't it? It's just like the clothes that are beautiful in the showcase, but when you wear it is not as beautiful as it was in the showcase. It is because it is yours. It's funny because God's experience in our life works like this. I remember once I wrote a text telling of a cart that I wanted to have, Pegasus, a beautiful cart that was in the showcase, and that I always wanted to have that cart for me, only I was poor. And Pegasus was too expensive for a bricklayer's son. So I was in the showcase dreaming, wondering what would be like that car. He was remote control. What it would be like to play with that car, which I never had. But what do I understand from this child's desire? I was in the showcase, and it was precisely because I couldn't have that cart that I found so charming. And still in the text I wrote there from my first book, Times, Fallacies, and Forgetfulness. Then I said that looking at a cart in the showcase for a child is like a religious experience. Because I look at the cart and I have no possibility to have it. And God, we love him like this, unable to possess him. The day we are intended to possess to God, he fails to exercise his power over us, because his fascination is precisely to never be imprisoned for us. God is immanence, but he is also transcendence. I look at him and admire him, as São Paulo says. We now see as if in parts, but we will only see this totality in eternity. And the hope of the promised land is totally, all that we are talking about is directly linked to the promised land. That we put ourselves on our way to reach a place we never arrive. Why? This place is not to be arrived. This place is to motivate life, and it changes its figure. This promised land is gaining new faces. No one stays looking for the same promised land all their lives. God's dream in our lives, he modifies. He gains new faces. And it's beautiful it's like that because that's why we don't stop.